Good afternoon. Welcome to the discussion on Prop 60, Adult Films, Condoms, Health Requirements Initiative Statute. I'm Pete Peterson, Dean of Pepperdine School of Public Policy, and I want to thank Nate Kaplan for picking the guy from the Christian University to handle this discussion. On the yes side of this measure, we have Derek Burtz to my right. On the no side, we have Susie Q. We will begin with 1 minute opening statements and introductions. Derek, please begin.
Yeah, my name is Derek Burtz. I'm a former adult film performer back from 2010. I was briefly in the industry for a short period of time, and this industry's had a negative impact on me in regards to STIs. You know, I got multiple of them, and I'll discuss that. But this proposition is really about public health and workplace safety. It's about bringing fairness to an industry that has blatantly disregarded the law, a law that's been in place since 1992. Not only is it a state law, but this is a federal law. And if you look at any other industry, you know, when it comes to workplace safety, whether it be construction or medical, these people follow the laws. And this is an industry that blatantly disregards the law, and they feel that they should be able to continue to get away with it. And that's why we need something like Prop 60 to close the existing loopholes that they continue to use in their favor to get away with following the law.
Susie, please.
Hello, my name is Susie Q. I've been an active performer for about 7 years now, and I've done several years of advocacy. It's important that we all vote no on Prop 60. I think it's important to listen to Derek's story, and though we're on opposing sides, at the end of the day, no one is more concerned about worker safety than the workers themselves. We're not against regulation. We are not even against condoms, but we are against Prop 60. If it was actually going to keep workers safe, you wouldn't see the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Libertarian Party, as well as the vast majority of working performers actively asking you all to vote no. If Prop 60 would actually keep workers safe, you wouldn't see 45 of the major newspapers in the state, including the LA Times, asking voters to vote no, because it won't keep workers safe. Under Prop 60, any resident of California will be able to sue a worker like myself, access my legal name, my home address, and also receive a 25% finder's fee, incentivizing harassment of an already marginalized workforce. It's not an issue of whether or not to regulate workplace safety on adult sets. We're all on the same page there. This is an issue of who gets to regulate that. 38 million California residents, the proponent, Michael Weinstein, or the government agency we already employ, as well as the workers who will be affected, should be at the center of those decisions. So please vote no on Prop 60.
As I was doing some preparation for the discussion, actually, even just this morning, there's a brand new piece in Rolling Stone that's covering this, and so I wanted to pull a couple notes from this. It says in the article this morning, although rarely acknowledged in news reports, condoms are already required on adult film shoots. The California OSHA, which oversees workplace safety, has repeatedly said that according to a 1992 law, condoms must be used in adult films productions to protect workers from bloodborne pathogens. First, go to you, Derek. The thinking is that because Cal OSHA rarely enforces the 1992 law, Prop 60 will allow AIDS Healthcare and other private entities to bring lawsuits against producers. Talk about the existing law and the reason why we need a Prop 60.
Yeah, no problem. Well, one thing, that the opposition has been saying is that this will, people can file a lawsuit against performers, and that's just truly not factual. We actually had a judge rule in our favor that it's only the producers, those who have a long-term interest, monetary gain in the production of the films, that can be held liable. The problem with the existing law, other than the fact that they don't follow it, is the fact that there's just too many loopholes that they continue to use in their favor. And Proposition 60 will close the loopholes. And we can go more into that about how it'll do that. In regards to the lawsuit portion, like I said, this is an industry that hasn't been held accountable, when it comes to all the damage that they've done. I'm someone that is living with HIV, and that is extremely serious. I have to live the rest of my life with this deadly disease and the stigma that's with it and all those things. And, if I wasn't passionate about this, I wouldn't put my name and my face out there speaking about this. This is something that's impacted my life, my family's lives, my children's lives. I have 2 children, and I worry about being there when they graduate and things like this. Is a very serious thing, and it happened because this industry thinks that it's not needed, that their current testing system is enough. Right. But it obviously isn't, because if it was, I wouldn't be sitting here today with HIV.
Susie, just your response on that issue. It seems like that if anything, this proposition has forced greater collaboration between the industry and OSHA. If you could talk a little bit more about the regulation that is or may continue to develop here.
Absolutely. So when we say that condoms are already on the books, what we're talking about is a regulation that was drafted for emergency medical settings. And I think we can all understand that an emergency room is very different from an adult film set. People still deserve protections, but we are currently talking with Cal OSHA and working hand in hand to draft regulations that are specific to our industry and to move forward with that. And we really believe that under Prop 60, and it's true under Prop 60, that Prop 60 will supersede Cal OSHA and allow any resident to, when Cal OSHA decides that there is not a workplace safety violation, to enable any resident of California to go ahead and sue anyway. That's what closing loopholes means, deputizing every single California resident to be, as the LA Times said, a condom cop. And I just don't think that's where our taxpayer dollars should be going. It makes Cal OSHA redundant and irrelevant, and that's unfair to everyone who works on the Cal OSHA board, as well as the workers who have volunteered countless hours to show up to those meetings as the true stakeholders of the industry and work hand in hand with Cal OSHA. Prop 60 will dismantle all of that.
The bottom line, though, if I can just state really quick, is no matter what Cal OSHA does say, even anything that you're proposing, condoms are still going to be mandatory. It's the gold standard. That's not going to change.
The regulation does not say that. Maybe someone you've talked to does, but the regulation is up for interpretation currently, and that's what we are working hand in hand with Cal OSHA to do.
Right.
If Prop 60 passes, though, none of that will be possible.
Just on the point that was raised before, Derek, 45 newspapers have come out against Prop 60, and in large part because of the lawsuit element. Joel Fox in Fox and Hounds, who I don't know to be an expert in pornographic filmmaking, but suffice it to say, he says, and I quote, "The lawsuit provision allows any resident to complain about a violation of the condom requirement to Cal OSHA for safety violations. If Cal OSHA doesn't act within a certain time period, the citizen can file a civil action against the film producer and recover 25% of any penalties assessed." In other words, every citizen in the state could become a bounty hunter for violations of the law Prop 60 hopes to put into place. And this appears to be the theme in most of the no votes, not on the health issue, but on the lawsuit issue. And I wonder if you could speak to that element.
Yeah, well, first off, I get that the papers and a lot of the op-eds are saying, no on 60, but, let's listen to the voters. Every time this has come to vote about workplace safety, they voted in our favor. So this has an impact on us and to everyday American people here in California, because we as workers, whether in the sex industry or not, we are exposing everyday citizens, and we're also relaying the wrong kind of message when you're seeing condomless sex out there. It's not portraying the right message. When it comes specifically down to that, also pay attention to the medical professionals. Every medical association out there still states that condoms are the gold standard. When it comes time to vote, I think it's really important that it's really the voters' voice that matters. And so far, they've been on our side every single time. And in regards to the lawsuit portion, I get that you guys may not like that, but you know what? People wouldn't be filing lawsuits if you guys would just follow the law. If you don't follow the law, there needs to be some form of consequence. You guys need to. It shouldn't be fair that you guys continuously get away with breaking the law. There needs to be some form of punishment, and because of the existing loopholes, they've been able to get around that. So,
right.
And also, let me speak in regards to the OSHA with the lawsuit portion. It's not like someone can see a film and then see no condoms and then immediately file a lawsuit. That's just not the case.
Okay.
It'll get a complaint can be filed with OSHA. OSHA then has 21 days to respond to the complaint.
Right.
So far, in every past incident, they've responded pretty fast, immediately, never longer than 21 days. But in the case that they don't, we put that provision there to make sure that we can still make sure that they're not getting around the law.
But just so I understand, in the past, those calls to OSHA were made by just everyday citizens, as it's stated in Prop 60? Because it seems like it's, again, the opposition side is saying that really this element that opens the door to not just OSHA receiving a complaint from somebody on a film set, but anybody who might notice that a condom is not being used in a production, they are able to file a lawsuit or file a complaint with OSHA and claim 25% of the damages.
I'm not sure specifically on who all exactly has filed complaints with OSHA.
Okay.
I know that we've done several, and I'm sure there's been others as well.
Okay.
But I think everyone should have the right to be able, when they see someone breaking the law, it's kind of like a whistleblower provision, to be able to allow, them to make a complaint. And if,
Right.
in fact, the state fails to act on it, then what? They continue to get away with the law and expose people to serious STDs. Let's keep in fact here that 1 out of every 4 performers working in the industry, 25%, have gotten some serious form of STD in their time, and a lot of these performers come and go. Another interesting statistic, this comes from your guys, one of your own doctors who used to run the AIM clinic, Sharon Mitchell, stated that 66% of performers have herpes. Herpes, they don't even test for herpes, do you? They don't test for herpes because the majority of the people have that, and that's something that you live with for the rest of your life that doesn't go away.
Right.
Let's talk about HPV. I had a good friend. She got HPV and cervical cancer. So there are serious dangers to this industry, and when your job is sex and it's being regulated, you have to follow the law. It's as simple as that. It's about following the law.
Right. So let's just go. I just want to focus on this piece because, again, it seems to be the major theme in all the no votes coming from the editorial boards regarding the fact that it really does open the door to lawsuits, or at least complaints coming from numerous people. Could you speak to that?
Well, before we move forward, I just have to say, as a woman, it's very dangerous when we have men talking about punishing women for the choices they make about their sexual health. We've seen that in this election already, and that's a very dangerous rhetoric to begin using. So that lawsuit provision is really important, I think, and that's why you see the vast opposition, because punishing people is not a way to regulate public health. I think we all can agree on that here. Criminalizing people's choices is not what we need to be doing. And if anything, I want to point out, so if we want to talk numbers, 50% of people, of the general population, have had 1 STI test ever. If what, Derek, we're talking about were rooted in reality and science as opposed to stigma and shame, we wouldn't be seeing the opposition that we're seeing from performers. We wouldn't be able to work. We would not be able to exist in that manner. And so if anything, we're concerned about the general population, I believe. No other demographic tests the way that we test. We have not seen an onset transmission in California using our testing protocols in over 12 years. We test every 14 days for 7 different STIs. Epidemiologists have said if the general population tested the way that adult film performers test, we would not see the rates of STIs in the general public that we're seeing. So when we talk about this, we really need to understand that we're working with a lot of misconceptions and ignorance about a marginalized population. And when you put our health and our safety in the hands of 38 million people who do not understand who we are and may hate us for what we do, and when you enable them to come after us, access our private information, there are a lot of people who don't like me for what I do or like me a little too much.
I want to speak to that privacy question as well. This also came out in the Rolling Stone piece, and in that they interviewed an adult performer, Ayla Darling, who, quote, "But Darling believes the unintended consequences of Prop 60 could be devastating. Under the proposed rules, any citizen could sue any porn producer, distributor, or agent. Darling, who is both a performer and producer and goes by a stage name, worries that a lawsuit could make her legal name and address public." Derek, could you just speak to that element of what a lawsuit could do in revealing what is, in one sense, a very open industry, but in the same sense for personal privacy, there is a real focus on maintaining personal identity privacy.
Yeah, no problem. One thing I want to point out is this specifically applies to the producers. So if someone is also a performer and they're acting as a performer, they're being paid, this wouldn't apply to them. This would only apply to them if they're acting as a producer or having a long-term monetary gain from this. There are also, like I said, even before it gets to that portion, like I said, Cal OSHA would have to fail to respond within a timely manner. Mm-hmm. If it gets to the case to where a lawsuit is filed, there are ways where they could seek a protective order which would prevent their legal names and medical records and other personal information from being released. If they were worried about that, they could seek a protective order.
So, may I respond?
Yes.
So I think that it's important, and I think if the people who drafted this initiative had done so hand in hand with working performers and the organizations that advocate for them, maybe we wouldn't see these problems. But the fact is, nowadays, 75% or more of active performers do have a financial interest in their films. And under the proposition, it says performers are exempt, as Derek says, provided they do not have a financial interest. That can include marketing via affiliates, content share, webcamming from home with my husband will make me liable for a lawsuit. And that's just, it's counterproductive. If we really want to talk about workplace safety, if we really want to talk about the things that Prop 60 says it wants to talk about, let's do it. Let's not.
Then why don't you guys just follow the law and wear a condom? It's the law. Why do you guys think that you guys should blatantly be able to get away with the existing law? If I'm driving a car and I'm not wearing my seatbelt, I get pulled over and get a ticket. I'm putting other people's lives at danger. The fact is, no matter what you guys want to do, even Kalosha, the chairman, said, you guys have to wear condoms. It's the law. Get over it.
So condoms are a great option, absolutely.
But it's the law. It's not an option. It's the law. You have to wear a condom. It's as simple as that.
What about the argument, again, that does say that because it's the law, this is really being used as a last resort because the law has not been followed?
And again, we're not talking about a law. We're talking about a regulation that is not
It's a regulation
specific
to
our
make sure that the
industry.
law is being enforced. Because with the way that the law is right now, you guys are using loopholes that are exposing thousands of people to serious STDs. I got HIV. You saw my son out there earlier today, and I worry about him every single day because of what this industry has done to me. It's damaged several people. I could tell you about Cameron Bay, or the fact that she was exposed to blood while she was getting shot, shooting with several men, and they wiped the blood up with napkins and continue to shoot, and they tell her if she doesn't shoot with a condom, she's not going to get paid.
Right.
And that's the true facts that are out there, and that's not fair.
Okay, I want to make sure that we're providing equal time here and to focus on the questions. One of the kind of baseline results of some of the analysis of Prop 60 is that in many ways it might be thought that if this were to go through, it's just going to move the industry outside of California. I wondered what your thoughts were, Susie, first on that thought that really in the way, if the issue is really about health and safety of the actors and performers, doesn't this just really in some ways just push the industry out of California?
I think that's a definite concern that people have, the industry being pushed out of state, underground, where the regulations that work, that we've developed over the years, will not be in place. And I think that you may hear the yes side say, oh, but it's illegal to shoot anywhere else. And that's just simply not the case. In California, we're lucky enough to have specific First Amendment protections that protect adult films and our right to make it. But we have that right in all 50 states, thanks to the First Amendment. But yes, I am concerned that the industry will move out of state where we don't have the community, we don't have the protections that we have here in California.
Derek, your thoughts on the possible implications if the goal again is the safety of the performers, if this were to come down and it just moves the industry either underground or to New Hampshire or offshore, what are your thoughts about that prospect?
The industry's been here, since I think the 80s here in California. They're pretty deeply rooted here. And when we've battled these types of cases in the past, they've always made that threat, and they're still here. And I don't think they're going to go anywhere. Like you had mentioned, there's only one other state where the production of pornography is legal, and that's New Hampshire. And I don't know of any major companies that are there in New Hampshire. And also I want to point out that no matter if, they threaten to move out of state, this is not just a state law. This is a federal law. It doesn't matter what state you go to, they're still going to require condoms. And what this tells me is that they're trying to dodge the issue, saying, well, we're not going to wear condoms, so we'll just move out of state and expose, other people to serious diseases that could be damaging for life or possibly deadly in the long term. It doesn't matter where you go. The fact is it's still wrong. You're exposing workers to sexually transmitted diseases when this is your job and it's what you do. I get your, whole thing with freedom of speech, that kind of thing, your body, your choice. But we also had a judge side with us back in 2014 during Measure B that stated that condoms were not a violation of freedom of speech, and that they, when you're working in a in a job where there's high risk of transmissions, that condoms need to be worn. That's the bottom line. I don't know how much I can say that.
The last piece I just want to raise here, because there's been a focus actually in several of the editorial boards with one of the proponents, Mr. Feinstein. The SAC-B recently noted, quote, in its fine print is language that AHF says it needs if the initiative wins and is challenged, but the state fails to uphold the voters' will and defend it in court. In such a case, Weinstein would be sworn in as a state employee with standing to defend the initiative himself, and he wouldn't be fired without a majority vote of both the legislative houses. Oh, and the taxpayers would be on the hook for the legal expenses. So just a last point here on Mr. Weinstein's position here, and again, some of that fine print, which some of the editorial boards have picked up as being problematic.
Actually, we had a judge rule in our favor because they were trying to put some of that information in the California voter guide, and we actually fought that, and the judge actually ruled on our side, stating that the claim was false and misleading.
Okay.
And also, I want to point out that it doesn't make Michael Weinstein an employee; it makes him an agent of the state for purposes of defending off any challenges that might occur in court. And let me refer to Measure B.
Derek, we're against time, so I just want to finish, give Susie a chance to respond.
Now, I always want to be listening to workers. We always want to centralize those voices, but we need to listen to every worker, and you need to listen to the hundreds of workers, the vast majority of workers who are begging California to please vote no, because this will not keep us safe. This will introduce regulations that are substantially less safe than those that are already in place. It will compromise our privacy. Please stand with the major parties of California, the major newspapers of California, and the workers themselves like myself. Please vote no. Protect our safety for real.
Thanks to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.